part-time, it's kind of like being a dad. You there some of the time. Fathers clock in, and they don't clock out. You're on your job 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. It's full-time because you can't raise your kids part-time. Part of the time around here will get your kids in jail, or you be, you know what I'm saying, you'll be in that funeral procession taking your kid to the graveyard. And that's real life for our kids here in Europe.
Right. Yes, brother, can you add anything to that discussion of fatherhood?
Fatherhood, yeah, I can. I mean, having three separate men in my life coming up as an individual, I was able to be shaped completely different from three different men. Whether it was my real father, him just showing me, just always being supportive of what was going on, or whether it be the man that was in my life that pretty much shaped me to be the man that I am today, in the aspect of having wisdom to apply to your children, or just an individual that's just going to be a stand-up individual in every aspect of life. So I had, three different men in my life to speak in my life. So when it comes to just fatherhood in itself, I can look at it and reflect back on it for myself and say, it's all about being able to make the right conscious decisions. The father has to make decisions for his family. I know that to be for sure, man, because I'm out here way in York, Pennsylvania, and I live in Joplin, Missouri. And I mean, tell me, man, being a man of God and preaching inside of the church, here it is. I'm inside of a hotel where a lot of stuff is going on that you wouldn't even think should be going on, but yet you got to be able to stand your ground and be able to say, you know what, I'm gonna still stick to my guns and be the man in the whole integrity, and not do the things that other people are doing, but yet I'm still gonna be that man to weigh and oh man, just allow that, as we would say in the spirit, that flesh to get buffeted at times. So yeah, man. So a father has to go through hardship. That's what a father has to do. He has to be a tough individual, tough as nails, and that's what a father does. Sometimes he might bend, but he won't break. That's a father. So that's what a father means to me in fatherhood itself. You see your child going through something, but yet you pick your child up and you tell your child everything's gonna be okay, even when sometimes it ain't gonna pan out, but yet you still there to make that believable for that child. That's a father to me. That's what a father should be like.
Brother Gerald, could you add anything to the discussion on that topic?
Yeah, I feel as though nowadays it's a little different than it was with us coming up. You know what I mean? The father has to sacrifice. And I say sacrifice in the sense of the word is of like, you have to do things sometimes just to make sure everybody's okay. The kids nowadays, of course, me working with younger kids now, work with kindergarten through 8th grade, they know more, they see more, and they understand more. Where it was, when we were younger, you had, like I said, you had men, as my brother alluded to, you had men that watched over you, that made sure that you was okay, that seen you and said, what you doing? And you corrected yourself. You know what I mean? Where now you have a different type of father where they condone some of this activity and some of the things you see. These kids know a lot more than they should at these younger ages. Where we kind of kept them, let kids be kids. We wanted kids to be young and understand that it's okay just to be young and enjoy yourself. Where now, you have, like I said, the whole baby dad thing, where that's more like a title, that people wear that, and they wear that title with some sort of respect, as opposed to being a father and being a man that your child can look up to. You know what I mean? Being a man that your child looks at and say, there's no greater feeling in the world for me personally than when they say, who's your dad? And my kids say my name with pride. When they say, yeah, you know Proc, you know Gerald Proctor, you know Uncle Proc, you know he works at the school, da 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 da. There's no better feeling in the world for when your kids say your name of Proc, because that means that shows that you have a big impact in their life. Whereas opposed to nowadays, sometimes you have kids that they know their dad's in jail, their dad's not around, their dad doesn't come through, you know, or their dad comes through here and there, you know what I mean, or you know makes empty promises. They always say, how do you spell love? T-I-M-E. Time. Put in time with your kids. Spend time with your kids. Do things with your kids. You know what I mean? When my daughter turned 10 years old, a great father, mentor man in my life told me to take her on a date. So I did that. I took her out. We went to Empire, got her little hair curled. Got her little nails done. I took her to Red Lobster. We pulled out the chair because I wanted to show her what a man is all about. This is what a father does for their children. You know, like I said, as far as with your sons, you get out there and you play sports with them. You do things that you might not even want to do. You come home after a long day. You work 12 hours. You come home. You're tired, but you still got to make time for your family, especially your children. So for me, I think that's the thing that's different now as opposed to when we were young.
Right. And anyone can chime in. A couple weeks ago, Brother Gerald, me and you were talking about blended families, and anyone could chime in. Do you think that's a challenge, you know, these days of with fatherhood, with blended families? And this isn't just one, you know, it doesn't just have to be one person. This is a conversation. Do you think that's a challenge? Anyone can chime in. The challenge of blended families.
I'll go ahead. Like I said, being in a relationship and about to be married, I'm a part of a blended family. But I don't really see it. For me, it's not much of a challenge because I don't treat my fiance's kids any differently than I do my own. The rules for my kids are still the rules for her kids, which is when we got together, we had to make rules of the house, and that's just the way it goes, and they're not to be bent or broken, and it just is what it was. But at the same time, we didn't force any relationships. I had to build my own relationship with her kids. She had to build her own relationship with my kids. So our kids love each of us for their own reasons because they have their own individual relationships. There was never a point in time where it had to be forced, like, you're going to respect her because that's who I choose to be with. They had their own relationship because I can't treat each of her children, I can't treat them the same because each child needs something different. As if kids in your own house, nobody treats all their kids the same because their needs are different. So with that being said, I had to build my own relationship with her kids to find out what it is that they needed from me to be the man of the house and be the man that's in the house. So, you know, if transition for a blended family, if it's done, I guess for each individual, I can't really say what's right or wrong, but if it's done in general, in love, and you have the support from that future spouse or spouse or whatever, it's not that hard. It's not that complicated. Like I said, it's about, as they said, it's about being a source. It's about building. I show up for her kids the same way I do my own. And like I said, if you've seen them all together, other than the way their physical features, you would never figure out who's biological and who's not.
Any other brothers?
Being a part of three different men in my life, being blended that way, and having to submit to authority. Having to submit to authority at the time taught me authority. So when we speak of blended families, it becomes an authority made a measure. And how often are you able to submit yourself to another source or another human being that is quote unquote above you at this time? And that is that's my reflection of what I can learn from something like this. And I mean, some would say, man, your situation was negative, and man, but that's the product of my environment. I'm a product of my environment, but yet I actually still surcame that, and now I'm a father of my own, and I know how to take care of my children because of those things. So the biggest thing for me in that would be more or less that blended family aspect would be able to, how can you submit to this man's authority of not being your actual father, not being your DNA? Can you, even by you not knowing him, he's with your mother, can you still look at him and call him dad? And he's the one that's providing for you. This man is out there working and busting his behind and make sure that you okay. He buying you a new pair of tennis shoes and making sure that you okay at school and things like that. Can you submit to that? Can you submit to that authority? And that is that was a big thing for me coming up in the ages that I had to come up in the different time spells of my life. Man, just the authority aspect of it, and man, I'm able to invest that into my children now because I learned that. So yeah, the authority would be for me.
I can speak on blended family also, because God has blessed me to go through a great deal of trials and tribulation. Young, married my high school sweetheart. We had 8 children, beautiful family, and we worked together for 18 years raising those children, setting the best example that we could. I always wanted to be like my father. My mother did not have to work outside the house, so I learned from my father to be the breadwinner so that my wife, my former wife, could be home and raise those children. And we were a beautiful family, and we were together for 18 years. But after 18 years, we did end up separating and getting a divorce. And I speak on this part of it because that is very difficult in a family. If ever possible, the marriage bond, the marriage between husband and wife, it's a sacred bond. And we should do our best to try to make those marriages work. But in the event that they don't, life does not end. And in this day and time, we know we're going to have a lot of what we call blended families. So my former wife with my 8 children, I thank her for being the type of woman that she was. Because we had so many children, when we did divorce, she allowed me to keep the children in the home there so that they wouldn't be disrupted from their school and have to leave the city, things of that nature. So I thank her for that. And I then became what they call Mr. Mom. So I've been a single father for 2 years. So, and I know from experience the difficult that breaking up of the family has. So, and in our faith, in Islam, of all the things that God Almighty permits, divorce and separation and breaking up of the family is one of the things that displeases Him. So, I would always say, men, do the best you can to keep the family intact. But it's not the end of the world if you have to remarry and blend in a family. Just like the brother mentioned, when you bring in 2 families, it's the man has to make sure that he works hard to treat, like he said, all those children the same. And it's going to be difficult. It's a problem in our society today because the people have not learned how to blend these families. They hold grudges and they speak, the father speak against the mother against the father, and we need to remove that and remember that the children are the ones that are injured that way. So I experienced blending family, and at one time my second wife that I married, she had 2 children, so we had to bring my 8 and her 2 together for a total of 10. Imagine getting 10 kids ready for school at one time. But praise be to God, we were able to blend them families together, and we showed them all the love that we had for. They saw the love that we had for each other, and I think it spilled out into them that they were able to